Hello, you're listening to episode 46 of Paradise Preview as we look ahead to the game against Elfsborg. This week, I'm joined by Frank from Millie's Boys. How are you, Frank?
I'm good.
So, I heard that you managed to get yourself across to the Ross County game?
Yeah, aye. It's obviously the first league game of the season. And I've been at the games before that, but it's always good to get out and see the flag being unfurled and get back with everybody you know.
Yeah, that's great. So what was your general thoughts in the game overall?
I thought it was okay. I think, to be honest, it could have been better, but I don't think it was maybe as bad as certain people make out. I think Chris Commons, for example, on another day could have scored at least one or two goals just by himself. Well, it wasn't great, but for an early season game, it was okay against a fairly tough opponent in Ross County.
Yeah, me and Paul talked about that in the last episode. You know, that Ross County are generally a well set up team. They've not got the best players, but they usually defend quite well and make sure we don't get too much space. But we did really well keeping the ball and making chances. The only thing was, not really finishing those chances. So the game we're looking ahead to is a Champions League game against Elfsborg. It's obviously quite an important game. If we lose this game, then that means we'll basically be put down to the Europa League, which obviously we don't want to replicate last season's success. So what was your thoughts on the last Elfsborg game?
I thought it had similarities with Ross County. Elfsborg came just like Ross County did, and they were aggressive, they were physical, and they were fairly well organised, especially defensively. They were very good at making our midfielders or even our forwards turn back whenever we had the ball. And of course, any time that they were going forward, especially with Georgios Samaras, they just kicked them up in the air. But again, I thought it was okay. I don't think we ever really managed to get out of maybe third or fourth gear against Elfsborg. But again, as you said, it's the next leg is an incredibly important tie with the view to the season going forward. So we need to play better than that, I think, this week in Sweden.
Definitely. I think that was the sort of result Elfsborg were looking for. I think they would have obviously preferred a draw, but I don't think they'll be too worried by being 1-0 down at this point. I think they'll be a lot more worried about us getting a goal away in Sweden. Yeah,
I think, to be honest, if you'd offered Elfsborg a 1-0 defeat at Celtic Park, they'd probably have taken it, because if Celtic had come out and it was like middle of the season and they were firing on all cylinders, Elfsborg, I think, are the sort of team that we would beat relatively comfortably. But obviously that didn't happen. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think, to be honest, we should have enough to get past them. But as ever, Celtic very rarely make things easy.
So looking towards the Elfsborg game, is there any changes you make to the team lineup?
I don't know. Part of me would have considered potentially throwing Borictor in if he hadn't taken his knock at the weekend. I think Lennon will stick with a sort of tried and tested lineup. I think he'll stick with the players that he knows can do it and have done it before on the European stage. I'd be surprised, to be honest, if we went out and comfortably eased past them. I think we'll manage to grind out a result, and it probably won't be a particularly pretty or entertaining game to watch, but I think he'll probably stick with his usual sort of, 14 or 15 players that he generally picks from.
In the last game, there was a lot of people saying that Kyle didn't have a good performance, along with Ambrose, perhaps. Would you agree with that?
I actually thought that Kyle wasn't as bad as he was made out to be in certain quarters. He's a bit of an enigma, but because obviously a couple of seasons ago, along with Zagiri, he was viewed really as one of the most valuable players at the football club. There were all the constant rumours about clubs looking at him and wanting to sign him and all this. And it was only after he was out with injury for a while, and then obviously you had the emergence of Victor as one of the main stalwarts in midfield. That pushed him out the side for a while. So I think he's still trying to recapture that sort of form, but I thought he was okay. He wasn't anything to write home about, but I wouldn't have said that he was particularly bad.
Yeah. The thing I'm really worried about is I'm all for giving players a chance, especially after they're trying to recover from injury. I've always thought that Ezekiel's a really good player. He's worth putting in the team, but sometimes he's not played his best because he's trying to come back from injury. But Kyle, it's been a little while now, and he's just not really shown the same form to me that he has in his first season. It's not necessarily that he plays bad; it's just that he's prone to making big mistakes or disappear, or basically just disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
Where a player like Joe Ledley, he's just always got to be there. He's just got to be consistent, and he's always got to be looking for the ball, making himself available.
Mm-hmm.
Where in these big games, especially away from Europe, if Kyle isn't having the best game, then players aren't really wanting to pass to him, and then basically can't get involved in the game. So it's almost like being a man down. So if Kyle, in my opinion, he didn't have a good game at Celtic Park, and I'd say if he puts in the same sort of performance away from home, it could be deadly. So Joe Ledley, he had a really good game against Ross County there. So from our team lineup, obviously Forster on goal, Lustig and Izagiri at the fullback positions. Centre back, I'm not sure how Wilson's doing. Do you know anything about that?
I do not know.
I don't know why he was dropped. I'm not really fond of having Ambrose and Mulgrew at centre back, but obviously that's who we played against Ross County. So hopefully we can get Wilson back and play either Wilson and Mulgrew or Wilson and Ambrose at the very least. Then midfield, I think the thing that really worked for us against Ross County was having two fast players out wide early on in the game. Obviously, James Forrest on the right and Bo Richter on the left, and that really just spread out the Ross County midfield. And coming up against Elfsborg in this game, I think they've really going to try to pack the midfield. So if we could get Forrest and Bo Richter out wide, then that'd be great. Midfield, Brown and Ledley sort of picks itself for me, and then up front, I guess we've just got to go with Stokes and Samaras again.
I mean, I must admit, there's when you said initially about changing the lineup, I was kind of more thinking towards the Ross County game in the sense that obviously Joe Ledley essentially ran the midfield on Saturday, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would definitely have him in for the game in Sweden. It's, as you said, the two quick players on the wings made a big difference against Ross County. And one thing I didn't like about that game was at points we reverted to try and play a long ball, and most of the time it didn't come to any sort of fruition. Whereas when we did get ball down and passed and played and moved, and they tried to be quick and pacey about it, I thought they looked a lot more dangerous. So I hope that even if we spend a fair bit of time defending during the week, I would hope that we counter attack quickly and keep the ball down, because we seem to get better results from doing that.
That's definitely what we did last season in Europe away from home. Really get the ball down and play with it compared to previous seasons, where we just want to lob up front. But obviously, we did lob up front at times, and that did do well for us, just whipping crosses in the box and so on with Victor Wanyama and Samaras. So have you got anything to say about Elfsborg?
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at obviously Elfsborg's recent form and their recent record, and to be honest, they're not exactly going through the best time at the moment. They've only won 3 of their last 10 matches, and 2 of those came against Dogva and the Latvian side. who of course have been accused of all the stuff regarding match fixing and all the stuff that comes along with that. And their only other victory in that 10-game period came against the team who are bottom of the Swedish table. In recent times we've been beat by the likes of Malmo, AIK, and Helsingborg. And of course we've got a recent record against Helsingborg, and again they were a fairly competent team that weren't anything to write home about. So I don't really think that Elfsborg are on a much higher level. If anything, Helsingborg are currently top of the table, and Elfsborg are sitting in sixth. So
yeah. Go on.
We should progress past a team like Elfsborg. If we don't, then obviously it's a nightmare. But if we don't progress past something like Elfsborg, we don't deserve to play in the Champions League, regardless of how many qualifiers we have to play. I mean, they've only won 7 out of their 18 league games this season, so we have to look to progress past this sort of team.
Yeah. The thing I really say in response to that is, we beat Barcelona. On the night, it's a better team that goes through. Of course, like league form and your skill really does come into it, but sometimes a team can go through solely on just really being there at the night. Just really being in form, everything working for them, and sometimes even just a bit of luck from the referee. For example, in the last game, with the referee denying Stokes a penalty.
Yeah, well, I mean, you only need to look back a few years to see examples of that. You take something like Utrecht. I think we went over to Holland with a 2-0 lead from Celtic Park, and we relatively well outplayed them in the home leg, and everyone thought we're fine, and we ended up losing 4-0. So we have to be wary. As I said, I don't think it'll be a pretty game. I don't think it'll be one where, in a few months' time, presuming and hoping that we progress, I don't think we'll be looking back at it and, remembering it for the rest of our lives. But I think it's the sort of game that, although it's not pretty, we need to look to just kind of get our heads down and do it.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so now we're going to go into a new section that's called...
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Gaffer V the Guest.
So as you heard, it's Gaffer V the Guest. Just a quick explanation of what it is. Basically, every week I'm going to guess the score and the scorers. Then the guest every week is going to guess the score and scorers. And basically the guess is going to be, it's not going to be guess by guess, they're just going to be clumped together, all the points are going to be clumped together. And basically you get a point for predicting the correct score, and you get a point for predicting each correct goal score. And it's basically just going to be tallied up, and we'll just keep on going through it all the way through the season, and at the end of the season we'll find out who's better at actually predicting the game. Is it the almighty host who's on every week and obviously knows everything, the great Gaffer? Or is it the guests? Is Gaffer stupid? Are the guests amazing? Is it just plain luck? We'll see. So Frank, what's your prediction?
I think that it's going to be, I've got a bad feeling that it's going to be very, very nervy. I've got a bad feeling that Mohamed Bangura is going to score. So if I had to make a prediction, I think we will lose 2-1 and go away on the away goals rule. We'll be sitting there, we'll score early, we'll go 1-0 up, and then maybe they'll equalise with about 5 minutes left, and then they'll score again in stoppage time, and for those desperate last few minutes we'll be tearing our hair out and screaming for the final whistle. I hope I'm wrong. We've actually been very good away from home over in recent campaigns. There's been a marked improvement, but I've just got a gut feeling that I can't shake that it's going to be one of those nights where we're all sort of biting our fingernails. Although I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to say that I think we'll run out 3-0 winners, and if we do, nobody will be more delighted than me. But I think we'll progress, but it'll probably be by the skin of our teeth.
Oh, I hope it doesn't go that way either. So who's your predicted scorer?
If I had to pick somebody to score, I would go with Chris Commons.
Chris Commons. I think it's definitely going to be a tough game. Elfsborg is going to give us a challenge. However, I think it'll be 2-1 to Celtic. Basically, the opposite of you.
I'm a
I think,
pessimist, though.
yeah, I think that Elfsborg might get the first goal, and that might scare us. But I think in the end, we should be able to score a goal or two over there. We've scored away against Barcelona, we've scored away against Benfica. I think we should at least get one goal, and I think we could push for two, especially if we're under pressure. And my predicted goal scorers is Samaras and Joe Ledley.
I think it's the sort of game where, obviously we went to Scandinavia twice last year and came away with 2-0 victories, which was fantastic. But even in both of those victories, there were chances galore for the opposition, and it was a mix of good fortune and some, last-ditch defending and great goalkeeping, and they kept the clean sheets, and that's going to happen in Europe. Teams are going to have chances, and you have to obviously do what you can to negate those. But it's just, as I said, it's just a gut feeling that they're going to give us a bit of a fright, I think, because I don't know. It stems from the whole thing about Bangura during the week. I think that all the booing and stuff, whether people think it's right or wrong, is irrelevant. It's going to motivate him. I certainly thought he looked more interested during the week than he had done any time I'd seen him previously when he played as a Celtic player. So I think the motivation is going to be there for him to do something, but whether or not he'll actually be able to produce it against defenders who really should be able to deal with somebody like him is debatable.
Okay, so this has been another Paradise preview. Thanks for listening. Hail, hail, and keep the faith.